Welcome to another deadline stream ahead of Game Week 12. It's been a little while since we've done one of these. We have been doing some videos and live streams over the past few weeks during this international break, but unfortunately this week I haven't been able to do as much as I would have liked and even prepare some videos for next week because unfortunately I've been ill once again, which is very frustrating, but I tried to answer all the questions and comments to the best of my ability as always, and thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. Of course, we've got even more news ever since I uploaded my preview today about Phil Foden, and it looks like he could actually be a big doubt to play the game at the weekend. It's just a little knock, but you never know. I'll be talking about my thoughts on that matter very soon. Of course, Grealish, he's another one, and then we have De Bruyne, who's ruled out for the next 10 days, so he's going to miss some big games for City, including that Paris Saint-Germain game midweek. Thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. Let's go through your questions right now. Thank you, Rock and Roll, for the reminder about the chat rules and stuff like that. Appreciate it a lot. Welcome, Ninja. Ready for DTR. I'm going to pretend I understand what that means. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome, Kobe. Good to see you again. Same with Paywand. Welcome, VVFPL. Welcome, Spurs fan. Legend Dylan needed this. Thank you for all your support. Thank you very much. You are Spurs fan. We do support, rival clubs, but good to see you here. And yeah, let's see what FPL Gameweek 12 has in store for us. Welcome, Robin. Good to see you here too. NM0212 says 2 free transfers, 0.7 million in the bank. My team is Ramsdale, Foster, Cancelo, Trent, Rudiger, Duffy, James, Salah, Saka, Rafinha, Gallagher, Havertz, Antonio Vardy, and Archer. What should I do? Well, you got 2 free transfers. That's a good position to be in, to be honest. I think your goalkeepers are fine. Your defense, Cancelo, Trent, Rudiger, Duffy, James, still good, to be honest. Duffy, he's fine for the time being, but I suspect long term he's someone you could actually get rid of. But as for your midfield, that's where over the coming weeks you could start to tinker around a little bit. So you've got 0.7 million in the bank. You can't do Vardy to Kane. But one thing you could do actually, let me just try to see if this is right. So Saka, yeah, I would rather have Bowen over Saka, honestly, or even Smith Rowe. And I think this is a good time to get off Saka. He can still do well in the coming weeks, but he's the kind of main weakness, I'd say. And another one you could maybe downgrade is Rafinha, and then that will enable you to do Vardy to Kane. But to be honest, you don't have to undo your team just for that. The simplest way, honestly, would be Havertz, maybe downgraded, but he should be playing this week. Lukaku's still going to be out, or at least not in the starting 11 at this time. So it's a tough one, but I think ultimately I'd be looking at your midfield. That is probably the area I'd like to improve the most. I like your attack. Obviously, Archer's just a bench fodder option, but Antonio and Vardy's good, especially Antonio over the long term. So focus on the midfield, and Saka is the main one I'd get rid of, and I'd probably be looking to get in one of those players I said. Thank you, Sidindra, for tuning in. Hi, Uncle Dylan. I've never been called that before. Ari Foden after West Ham, you'll be on everyone's shopping list, and if you have a good bench, you can hold as is 50-50. If not, you will need to sell to a Silva or Son, depending on money. Yeah, in my situation, obviously, let's talk about Foden right off the bat. So I'm not really too pleased, obviously, with the situation with Phil Foden. I think that there might be a chance he's going to be rested because it's a knock. And I think what could happen here is he's just rested for that PSG game, which is very important for City. If they win that, they're in a very good spot to qualify for the next round. So honestly, yeah, I'm not really too confident with the Foden situation. And the only player I'd really move him on for is Son. With Jota, I talked about him earlier in the preview. I'm not too sure about him, to be honest. But yeah, honestly, with Phil Foden, it's a big shame that he is actually an injury doubt because I think he could do really well against Everton. I'd rather sell Townsend than Foden. Same here, to be honest. I think Townsend's more of a kind of priority sell. Who should I bench? Christensen, Rafinha, Jimenez? Great question. I probably would bench from those three Christensen, to be honest. If it was a James or a Chilwell, then it has to be Rafinha. But I think Christensen is probably the one to bench there. Hi Dylan, hope you're okay. Is it worth keeping Townsend? I already have Gallagher, Salah, Havertz and Brownhill. I don't think so. So even if you get a Smith Rowe, maybe right now is not the perfect time to get him in. He does face Liverpool, but I think there are just better options elsewhere. Even Mbuma, I'd rather have him than Townsend, to be honest. Hello, I'm 100% Arsenal fan since, baby, I love Papi Wenger. Well, yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I actually watched the Invincible documentary recently. It was very good. Gone to your head, Dylan. Top 3 point scorers this week? That's a great question. Well, this is not really because I'm taking my time. Gabriel Jesus, Son. I mean, I should probably say Kane. I did actually prefer him over Son. But yeah, maybe those two. And Yeah, and then I'll probably say Gabriel Jesus. He would actually replace Foden in my top 5 captains that I talked about earlier. Would you play Smith Rowe or Foden? I would still play Foden, to be honest. Obviously, I don't really expect him to start, but I probably would play him. Should I play Smith Rowe or Hwang? Good question. I probably would still go for Hwang. I think he's more likely to score. Jimenez, Son and Rafinha to Kane, Jota and Gallagher for a -4, says Ali, and have an easy switch to CR7, or just do Rafinha to Jota and save some transfers this week, but have to use them later on to get CR7. For a -4. One thing actually that has kind of come about with Gallagher recently, which is not very good news obviously, is I think it's Eze. He's now back in, at least he's in contention to get some minutes now. That not only could take some minutes away from Gallagher, but also there's other injuries. I think MacArthur is going to be missing game week 12, and what that means is Milivojevic comes into the side, and that takes away set pieces from Gallagher. So I'm not too keen on him right now as I was maybe a week or so ago. But I do like those transfers overall. Getting Kane, Jota and Gallagher for a -4 I think is worth it in your situation. And then, of course, like you say, an easy switch to CR7. But yeah, getting rid of Son for a -4 here, I'm not too sure. And also Jimenez has some very good fixtures over the next 3. So this is not really the perfect time to get rid of him. I think around game week 14 is when you probably want to get rid of the Mexicans. So I probably would hold in your situation, Ali. Is it worth to take a -4 for Diaz and Brownhill to Region and Gallagher? I think it is worth it, despite what I just said about Gallagher. I do prefer Diaz over Region, and once again with, like I was talking about earlier with Son and Jimenez, maybe it's not the right time to get rid of Diaz, because from now on he's got an exceptional run of fixtures. To be fair, I did get rid of him heading into the last game week, and I had a feeling he could get a clean sheet against United. But still, I think it's a good set of transfers. Just bear in mind, you're probably going to have 8 attackers there. You're going to have some selection headaches. Kobe says pick 2 to start: Rudiger, Mbeumo, Rafinha, Cornet. I would start Mbeumo and probably Cornet. Just bear in mind with Rudiger, though, that he's got an exceptional record against Leicester. Welcome, Genius Gamer. Thank you for tuning in. Do you think Rafinha will blank? Not necessarily, to be honest. I think if Leeds score, it will be down to the Brazilian. But I just have more confidence in the players I've got in my starting 11, except Vardy. That's the one I'm kind of 50-50 about. I got Ramsdale for Raya. Fair enough. I think that's a really good choice. And the other one I would have said is Gaeta. Should I bench Vardy or Mbeumo or Livramento? From those 3, I probably would bench either Vardy or Mbeumo, but that's a tough one. I mean, it's only because Livramento is facing Norwich, and then again, I talked about this earlier, he is facing a Norwich side with a new manager, Dean Smith, who can get a reaction out of them, so it's not too easy. I'm on a wildcard, so just a long-term goalkeeper, easy. It's either Ramsdale or Gaeta. Take your pick there. I think Ramsdale will get more clean sheets, but Gaeta has better fixtures, I'd say, from now on. Bench 2, Armstrong, Livramento, Rafinha. I would start Armstrong, honestly, if not Livramento. I'd bench Rafinha for sure. It's up to you between Armstrong and Livramento, but I think it's more likely that Southampton will score multiple goals than keeping a clean sheet, to be honest. I think Norwich could score there, to be honest. Ronaldo not in the top 3. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Maybe I probably would have died then in that situation. But yeah, he was my top captaincy option for the week. So yeah, it has to be him, either Son or Kane. And Gabriel Jesus is kind of my maverick pick there. But yeah, very good suggestion there. Let me try and get through some of the questions I missed earlier, and then I'll get back to the newer ones. Bench Vardy or Rafinha? I got 2 Chelsea defenders, and I'm really hoping that Vardy does not score. I'm in the same situation as you, ASAP Marius, and I've gone for Vardy right now. I did something similar the other week where I played Vardy and I benched Ramsdale because I didn't want that conflict, and in the end I benched the one who got double digits in Ramsdale. So it can always backfire, that's the thing. And if Leicester do score, it will be down to Jamie Vardy. But as alluded to in the preview earlier, should I say, Tielemans is out for 4 to 5 weeks, and that's a big concern. That's a big source of creativity and quality out of the Leicester side. And Vardy's been in pretty poor form recently as well. But yeah, I probably would just play Vardy, to be honest. But obviously, Rafinha can still do well too. Spurs fan says, thoughts on team: Foster, Sanchez, Trent, Cancelo, Chilwell, Livramento, Salah, Foden, Gallagher, Tony Vardy, and Antonio. Bench Smith Rowe, Andrew, and Sissoko. -8 hit for Foden to Jota or bench Foden. I would probably just start Foden just in case, because the way I see it, he's either going to start or he's not going to really feature at all and just be rested for midweek. Obviously, I could be completely wrong and he comes on for a 1-pointer, but for me, you either keep Foden or you get rid of him. You don't bench him, but I would just, in your case, just play Foden. It's a good team you have there, Spurs fan. Should I sell Antonio and Christensen to Wilson and Region, Emerson Royale, or Mbeumo to Gallagher, Cornet and Sanchez to Gaeta for a -4 because I don't have a backup goalkeeper. In that situation, mate, I would get Gaeta or Ramsdale in for Sanchez, and the other move I would look to do, I probably would want to keep Antonio if I'm being completely honest with you, but Christensen to Reguilon looks like a good move too, so that's what I would do. But Mbeumo to Gallagher is still a good choice as well. I think long term it pays off, but getting rid of Mbeumo this week might be a bit catastrophic. Maybe that's a bit far-fetched, but yeah. Yes, Foden has been ruled out. Well, I'm not sure. From the comments I saw earlier, it didn't look like he was ruled out. Pep said that he was improving and that he has a chance, but obviously he didn't really say much else. You know how Pep is, but I think he won't play based on the information we got today. Rafinha or Vardy is still Vardy for me, but not by much. Interesting question, Vardy or Son? I probably would say Son because long-term Spurs have better fixtures. With Leicester, it's up until game week 16-17, so it has to be Son for me. Greenwood, keep or sell? I would keep him for this week, but long-term it's definitely a sell, Ronak. Wildcard now or game week 15? This is by Anything Anna. Ramsdale, Foster, Chilwell, Cancelo, Livramento, Trent, Duffy, Brownhill, Salah, Son, Mbeumo, Smith Rowe, Vardy, Tony, Hwang. Thinking to get CR7, Antonio, Foden and Gallagher. Also thinking Pookie. I can see why you think that. I honestly wouldn't even go for Pookie. I just don't trust Norwich, and Pookie's a very streaky player, but he can easily go on a long run of, not scoring for a very long time. But yeah, getting Ronaldo, Antonio, Foden and Gallagher, they all look like good moves, but obviously with Foden, he could be out now of game week 12. So obviously, in your situation, I think you have a good team, and some of your players like Hwang, they've got good fixtures up until game week 14. So in your situation, I actually would wildcard in game week 15, mate. Marco says wanted to try and fit all Foden, Son and Jota in, but with Bobby, I don't think being out for too long and Foden doubt, Son's the one I'll go for this week. Yeah, I will do the same in your situation. If I don't have any of them, of course, I would just do exactly what you just said there. Hwang or Benrahma, whom to start? Good question. I mean, I would go for Benrahma based on the fact that I have more confidence in West Ham, but it's a tough one there. If it was Bowen or Antonio, I'd definitely go for them instead. Kobe says, in that case, would you bench Gallagher and bring on Rudiger? I would start Gallagher over Rudiger, despite what I said about Gallagher, to be honest. Wilson for a hit. It depends who you get rid of, KK, but I still think that's good. Rami says, bench Jimenez or Antonio or Mbeumo. I definitely wouldn't bench Antonio, despite his awful record against Wolves. He hasn't scored against them in 10 appearances. I probably would look to bench either Jimenez or Mbeumo, but Jimenez is a good player. He has scored against West Ham before. Vardy or Livramento, who to bench? I probably would bench Vardy, but that's a tough one. It's only based on the fixture. Thank you, Dylan. We all need this. Says Lewis Hamilton, my favourite driver of all time. Okay, I'll be honest. I want someone else to win. Sorry, Lewis. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Vardy or Livramento, whom to bench? Yeah, once again, I'd probably bench Vardy, and you have Rudiger there. To be honest, I probably would look to bench Rudiger in your situation, Niranya. Have you decided to go for Son or Kane? Not yet. I think there is a bit of an advantage to not going for either of them at this moment in time because you have another week's worth of data on the Conte, but then again, you never know. I think both of them will score similarly. It's not a case of one will heavily outscore the other. That's why I always think Son will just offer you better value. But with Kane, he's a great placeholder for Ronaldo, but there's pros and cons to both of them. I think they're both great options. You can't go wrong with either. Welcome, Jamie. Thank you for tuning in, mate. Are you going to be doing UCL team help? I will be doing some videos very soon. I haven't been able to recently, unfortunately, because I've been ill for the whole week. The plan was to actually at least record some UCL fantasy content, have it ready, and I might have uploaded one or two already by now, but unfortunately I haven't been able to. I'll look to address that in the coming days. Thank you very much for asking. Ronaldo or Salah captain? I honestly would go for Ronaldo over him this week. Duffy or Rudiger, whom to bench? Great question. Let me just actually remind myself of the fixtures once again. I actually would rather play Rudiger, to be honest, mate. And I'd bench Duffy. Kane or Vardy? Should I transfer Foden with Gallagher? Look, Vardy still has really good fixtures, and he is a good option, but I would rather have Kane, I think, despite the fact that Vardy's been far better this season. Should I transfer Foden with Gallagher? I probably wouldn't, but I can see why you'd want to do it. Who would you prioritise? Havertz to Jota or Rudiger to Cancelo? I honestly would do Rudiger to Cancelo. I think long-term FPL dream, that's a good move. For your team, don't you think that Rafinha will do better than Tony? Yeah, you did blank against Norwich, you're right, but then again, that's just one game. Tony has still had some good underlying stats, and the fact that Newcastle are one of the worst defensive teams, I don't expect that to dramatically improve, especially at the beginning with Eddie Howe. I'm not really too concerned. I think this international break might actually do Brentford a lot of good, so I'm not too concerned there, and I'd still rather play Tony despite how poor he's been. Get Jota for Havertz or Trent for Rudiger this week. I'd probably just get Trent. I think long term he's a great pick. I like Rudiger too. Not Sidemen, but I'd go for Trent. Captain CR7 Salah Wilson, CR7 for me, mate. McCarthy or Gaeta, I like both, but I'd go for Gaeta, and I'd rather cover Southampton with Livramento. Another reason why I'd go for Gaeta is because with McCarthy, he's got some pretty mixed fixtures coming up. Thoughts on Kane captain over Salah? I talked about this in my preview today, and I put Kane and Son number 2 and Salah third in terms of the best captaincy options this week. So if I had Kane, I would be considering to captain him. The reason why you don't have to do that though is because Salah's kind of a shield, and the fact that you get Kane, who's already a differential, you don't have to captain him in order to kind of gain rank from that decision. Foden captain, probably not. I'm probably going to be keeping or moving the armband away from him because I'm not too sure if he's going to start now. What happened to Foden? He picked up a knock during international break, according to Pep Guardiola. He has been getting better, but his comments don't really leave us with a lot of confidence. Bench Vardy or Rafinha? I probably would bench Rafinha, but there's not much in it. I think both of them, they could easily score, but they could easily blank against their respective opponents. Buy Reguilon or Livramento. I don't think it's the greatest time to get Livramento in. I'd rather have him long term because he just offers better value for money. But if you want to play the fixtures and you already have another budget defender, I just go for Reguilon. Foden to Jota. I'd rather have Foden instead, but I can see why you're doing it, and you can always get Foden back in, of course, but I still prefer Foden. Of course, the problem with him is that he might not play. Foden will play. I think there's a chance he doesn't, Mohammed, unfortunately. I hope it's not the case, but that's what I think. Hi, Dylan. Kane or Salah for captain? I would rather go for Kane. I think he's a better option because of the fixture, but the reason why I would still consider captaining Salah, despite the fact that Kane might be better, is just because Salah's a bit of a shield and Kane's already a differential. So no matter what happens with Salah, you have that covered, and then you can gain rank with Kane without captaining him. But of course, if you're asking me who do you think will score more points, I think on paper it has to be Kane. Do I start Smith Rowe or Rudiger? Already have Chilwell, Creswell, Cancelo. I would start Rudiger, to be honest. I think he could actually score against Leicester as well, to be honest. So, Turmeric Laporte, that's a fantastic name. Suggest me a starting 11. Ramsdale, Foster, Trent, Chilwell, Reguilon, Cancelo, Livramento, Jota, Son, Salah, Hudson, Norman, Hwang, Antonio, Tony. Okay, so I'd still go for Ramsdale in goal. I think even if he blanks, which he probably will, he won't keep a clean sheet. I think he can get some save points. Trent, I definitely would start regardless. I'd start Chilwell, Cancelo for sure. And I probably would go for Livramento and I'd bench Reguilon there. In midfield, it has to be Jota, Son, Salah. And yeah, I'd go for Hwang, Antonio and Tony. That would be my team, 4-3-3. And that's what I would do, Laporte. I do agree that waiting a week would be nice, but then you have Vardy with a good run. Yeah, that's true. That's why I'm saying there's pros and cons to not only both Kane and Son, but also that kind of decision making, whether you do it now or later. If I'm being honest, I completely agree with you. I think it's a bit tricky, getting rid of Vardy next week or in a few weeks' time when he has really good fixtures. That's when you probably want to keep him. You either sell Vardy now or ahead of game week 16-17 when he embarks on a very bad run of fixtures. But then again, Vardy is fixture-proof after all, and he doesn't really he's not that simple in terms of predicting when he's going to score and when he's going to blank, to be honest, because he can just do well against anyone. Aspie, hold or sell for James or a Spurs defender? I'd sell him for James, mate. Giglamesh. Would like Gallagher this week and can get him this week with no hit if I get Kane, and for a hit with Son. Kane better structure, Son better asset. I agree. Once again, I think Son offers you better value for money. They're both going to get similar amount of points, but Kane is just better for the structure. And that's why it's just a decision to make, to be honest. And I think if you would rather have Ronaldo than Bruno for those really good fixtures for United, then I would probably just go for Harry Kane, to be honest. Kane plus Jota versus Son plus Jesus. Also, if Foden doesn't play, would you keep Livramento or Hwang on first bench? I would rather keep Livramento first on your bench, Singh. And as for Kane and Jota or Son and Jesus, I like both duos a lot. And for Game Week 12 specifically, I think Son and Jesus could be really good because I really back Jesus to do well if he starts against Everton. But I think Kane and Jota, for the time being, I think for the next 2-3 game weeks when Firmino's out, that does look better. And with Jota, you can always move him on for Foden when he's fit. Was Sarr to Ramsdale a dumb transfer? I don't think so, mate. I think with Jose Sarr, I would have either got rid of him a long time ago on a wild card or heading into game week 14-15. But I think Ramsdale long term is just a better pick, so it's a good transfer. Son, Vardy and Armstrong or Kane, Tony and Foden? Great question. Normally I'd say Kane, Tony and Foden, but obviously Foden is a bit of a doubt at the moment, but I'd go for that. I like the other trio a lot because of that Son and Vardy combination. If Armstrong can cement that place in Southampton's starting 11 and show a bit of consistency, then I would kind of tip the balance in their favour instead. Benteke or Edouard? I would rather go for Edouard, but honestly from Crystal Palace it has to be Gallagher or Zaha for me if you want one of their kind of attackers. With Edouard and Benteke, they're both going to be subject to rotation. Edouard can be shifted to the left and then someone else plays up front like Zaha, and vice versa. It could be Benteke up front, but then some games he's going to be benched. So it's a difficult one. I'd rather go for Edouard, but I probably wouldn't go with either. Welcome, Wai Seng. Thank you very much for tuning in. Adil says, hi Dylan, how have you been and what's the plan for the week and how many transfers you got? I've only got one free transfer unfortunately, and I'm still kind of weighing up the options, so I can get Kane in for a -4 potentially, but yeah, it's just not looking too good at the moment if I'm being completely honest in terms of my transfer plans. If I had 2 free transfers, I probably would be looking to get either Heung-min Son in or Harry Kane, and overall I've been good, obviously a bit disappointed or a bit frustrated that I've been ill for the last week, and I still am. But, you know, recovering. Hopefully I'm fine tomorrow and I can do another stream potentially over this weekend and some more videos. But thank you very much for your question. Kane or Son? Once again, I think in terms of value, and that's probably what you're looking for, I'd say Son. Would you bench Jimenez and start Rudiger and Smith Rowe? Ooh, I would start Jimenez over Smith Rowe, mate. For some Gallagher, Eze's in the squad. Yeah, I talked about this earlier. And also McCarthy. It looks like he could be out for game week 12. And obviously that's not really... It doesn't seem too bad, does it? But then that means Milivojevic comes back into the side and takes some set pieces away from Gallagher. So not only could Gallagher be kind of dropping deeper, even if he, you know, maintains the same amount of minutes, he might be in a deeper role, and then also his set pieces are taken away. So I don't think he's going to be as reliable or as explosive as he has been in the last 2 game weeks. So I think it could actually be a bit detrimental, the kind of news we've gotten from Patrick Vieira this week. Hey mate, Zaha or Bernardo? Probably Bernardo. I don't like either of them too much, but I think Bernardo. So you decided Livramento is good enough to start against new manager Norwich. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about that, to be honest. I think that Norwich could score, and I'm not really too confident about this kind of decision between Vardy, Livramento and Rafinha, but it could go either way, to be honest. Big question now is that for people considering Jota like myself, if he enters the team, is it still advisable captaining Salah? Good question. I would still captain Salah, but you don't have to. You can go for Ronaldo if you have him. Bruno Fernandes. Also looking at, for example, the City assets like Cancelo or Jesus, who could be a very nice differential. And of course, Kane or Son. You don't have to captain Salah, but of course he's just a very nice shield. I definitely wouldn't be captaining Mane or Jota over Salah, and that's something I talked about earlier. For some Ronaldo, I wouldn't be bringing him in, but if I had him, I'd definitely hold him. You don't get rid of him ahead of a fixture against Watford, and I think he could be the best captaincy option this week, to be honest. Hey Dylan, Rafinha to Jota. Looks like a good move. I don't have enough money to make that myself. I've got 0.7 million in the bank, but in your situation, I think that's a good move for the next few weeks, and then you can always move Jota on. Start Diaz, Saka or Rudiger? I would start Diaz, to be honest. You sticking with Vardy? Honestly, it's a tough one. I might make a late decision and get rid of him for Kane, or if not, I downgrade him to a Wilson, and then I can upgrade a Rafinha to a Son. So that's kind of where my head is at the moment. You know you're getting better FPL when Dylan approves your transfer. Thank you very much, your mum. Thank you very much. But yeah, obviously, it's just kind of looking at it logically. I might be wrong. Sometimes FPL is a funny game, just like football, so you can make a good decision on paper and it doesn't really turn out right. Play Duffy or Havertz instead of Foden. I'd play Havertz, to be honest. Hey Dylan, my team is Ramsdale, Foster, Cancelo, White, Chilwell, Rudiger, Livramento, Salah, Saka, Rafinha, Foden, Douglas Luiz, Antonio Vardy, Jimenez, 2 free transfers and 0.5 million in the bank. Who do I bench? Okay, so I would start Ramsdale. I'd start Cancelo for sure. Chilwell. and Livramento I'd still go for. I'd start Salah, Rafinha, Foden, and then in terms of your attack, definitely Antonio and Jimenez. So why is that? So I've basically gone with 3-3-2, haven't I? Or 3... Yeah. So we need... Yeah, we need 2 more players because I didn't actually mention Vardy. I would actually start Rudiger, and the other one would be Vardy. Yeah, that's what I would do. So I'd bench Douglas Luiz, Saka, and Ben White. Ideal midfield you would work towards in the next 3-4 game weeks. Look, ideal, if I had a wild card, my ideal midfield would be Salah, Foden, Jota, and Son. I think that would be the main thing. But obviously, if you want 5 midfielders per se, like playable midfielders, and maybe downgrade one of your strikers, you can also add Gallagher to the mix. Have the same front three as you. Are you changing anyone? Potentially Vardy, but no one else, I think, for the time being. The thing with Tony is, if there was a viable alternative, other than Armstrong, who can... he doesn't really have great fixtures anyway, but if there was a viable alternative around that price, then I would make that move as well. Where's the face reveal, mate? I mean, the face has been revealed already, but I'm in such a bad state at the moment, so no face at the moment. Would you captain Kane? I would consider it, to be honest, for sure. Thank you, Kirby, for the shout-out. Thank you very much. And as he says, smash the like button. And don't forget to subscribe as well. Obviously, it helps out the channel a lot. And don't worry, we're not done yet, but this stream might be shorter than usual, unfortunately, because... Yeah, I'm literally going right to the limit today, but, at least I'm able to talk. That is a big upgrade on the previous days. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, Dylan_RCM. Thank you very much to everyone who's been following me there already and sending in questions, your teams and everything like that. Very much appreciated, and I'll try to get back to as many of you as possible. And also, after the stream is done, I'm going to be adding the link to the Discord if you want to, join in with the discussion, and I'll probably pretty much add it to the videos, the description of every single video as well. So thank you very much to everyone. Let's get back to your questions. Remember to smash the like button, it really helps out. Laporte says, I have 2.5 million in the bank. Who should I upgrade next game week? Adoy. Let me try and get the question up again. Adoy, Tony, Hwang, Antonio. Suggest some replacements. I'd keep Antonio at this point. You either, you got rid of him a few weeks ago heading into these tough fixtures. Right now I'd keep. I think he can do well against Wolves, Brighton, etc. I think Adoy is the main one to upgrade there, and I'd be looking at a Jota. I'd be looking at a Jota or a Foden when he's fit. I think they're 2 viable alternatives there. And I think for Hwang it's a bit difficult, but probably Wilson, I'd say. So Wilson, and I'd probably be looking at Foden or Jota in for Hwang and Adoy. The other 2 I'd probably keep for now. Which bench order? Livramento and Rafinha. I'd put Livramento over Rafinha, and so first on your bench if you can. Start Rafinha or Rudiger? That's a tough one. I probably would go for Rafinha in that case, but just bear in mind Rudiger has a good record against Leicester. Start Rafinha or Duffy? In that case, I'd start Rafinha. Thoughts on Buendia? Wait and see for me. I think he will improve under Gerrard, but I'd wait and see. Do you think Rafinha to Jota is a good move now? I think so. Just bear in mind, it might not be the greatest long-term move. Time to take a look on Buendia and McGinn. Yeah, I think so. From an FPL perspective, McGinn's a bit of a funny one. Sometimes, he can just come along with these goals and assists in a single game, and he gets a pretty significant haul. But the thing you want, really, from your assets is consistency. So let's wait and see. How much should the McCarthy and Eze news affect what, or if I bring in Gallagher? Or bring him this game week or 16-17? Good question. I mean, the fixtures for me are pretty mixed, I'd say. Over the next few, so you don't have to get Gallagher in right now. I think long term he's still a good pick. He's still probably one of the best around his price, along with Smith Rowe. So he's still a good option, but I just think he's not going to get these double-digit returns as often. I could be wrong, but I think that it's going to be a bit detrimental to his potential to haul big. Of course, let's wait and see. Of course, we're going to see what happens over the coming weeks. Bench 2: Matip, Rudiger, ESR, Creswell. Let's see. I would bench ESR and probably Matip. Yeah. Love your stream channel, brother. Greetings from Cyprus. Torn between Cancelo and Salah for captaincy. Any advice? Thank you very much. Big up Cyprus. Very nice place to be watching from. For the captaincy, I'd still go for Salah, but I do like Cancelo a lot. I put him 5th, Cancelo, in my captaincy rankings, and Salah 3rd. But of course, if you want a bit of a differential, I can see why you'd go for Cancelo. I think he can get the goal, which he's a bit overdue by. I think he deserves one based on the underlying stats. He can get an assist, of course, a clean sheet and some bonus. Thank you very much for your comment. Rafinha to Jota for a hit this week or free transfer next week? Tough one. I probably would say free transfer. But it could be worth a hit because Jota loves playing against Arsenal. I've been talking about this in my last few videos. He's got 3 goals in 2 games against the Gunners. I think he even came off the bench last season at the Emirates and he still scored twice. So yeah, I think Jota is a decent option this week, to be honest. So it could be worth a hit as well. If it was in my situation for a hit, the only way I'd take the hit really is if it facilitates me getting Harry Kane or someone else like that, like Son. But otherwise, if it's not really a necessary transfer, I probably would hold, especially if you have, other options on your bench as well. Jota, Kane, Hwang, or Jota, Kane, Tony for Vardy, Jimenez, Foden? Great question. I would go for Jota, Kane, Tony. I think the fixtures for Hwang are very poor in the coming weeks. Obviously, over the next 3, they're good. But beyond that, not too good. But then again, maybe you could just get Hwang in now and then get off him later on. Would you captain Kane if you had him? I would be very tempted. I'm not too sure, to be honest, but I'd be 50-50. And if I had Ronaldo, I think that's where I'd be more swayed towards captaining him. Foden to Bernardo. It's not a bad option. I do like Bernardo, but just not as much as Foden. And if Foden does start, he could do really well. And even in UCL, obviously, he's proving his worth there too. Joelinton versus Saint-Maximin. I'd rather go for Saint-Maximin. And from Newcastle, for me, it's just Wilson at the moment. Is Foden going to play? Obviously, we don't know yet, but my gut feeling would say if he is still suffering from a knock, he's not going to be risked at all. And he will be safe for that PSG game midweek, where, of course, PSG are getting quite a lot of key players back themselves, like Ramos and Messi, etc. Mbumo, Tony, Hwang, Livramento, Region. Which 3 should I start? I would start Mbumo, Tony, and Livramento. Are we keeping Vardy? I might not, to be honest. It's a difficult one. The only way I'd get rid of him really is for a Kane or Son, and it'd be for a -4. If I had 2 free transfers, he would be gone, I think. But I think Vardy is worth a hold. I talked about this in my transfer tips video because of the fixtures coming up. So if you are patient, I think you can get be rewarded. And also, he always does well when his price drops. His price did drop the other day as well. Tony versus Saint-Maximin, they play against each other, but Newcastle are at home. I own both, but don't know who to play. Tough one. I think Eddie Howe could get a little manager bounce there, especially at St James's Park. But normally I'd just go for Tony, despite how poor he's been. If it was Wilson or Tony, I'd go for Wilson, though. Rafinha or Rudiger or Jimenez bench? For me, Rafinha or Rudiger. I would probably play Rafinha and Jimenez and bench Rudiger there. What transfers have you made? None, to be honest. I've got 1 free transfer and I haven't done anything yet. Captain Son or Salah? I put Son second along with Kane in my captaincy video or in my preview. So I probably would say him, but you don't have to captain him. You can captain Salah for that shield and then go for Son. But I think Son has the better fixture this week. Would Sarr be a good shout for this game week? Going to remove him next week. Man U weak defensively. That's a good shout, to be fair. I think if Watford do score, I think Sarr will start to be more involved. He hasn't done much since Ranieri's come in, but I think he could be a decent one. But if I had him, I'd still get rid, honestly. Which one is better? Vardy to Kane, Bowen to Saka? Bowen to Saka, roll the transfer and bring in Smith Rowe versus Newcastle. Any recommendations? Bowen to Saka. I would not get rid of Bowen to Saka. I'm guessing you're saying the other way around. If it's Saka to Bowen, I would do that. I think long term that's a better move. Zaha or Gallagher, regardless of price. I still prefer Gallagher, but I do agree with you to a certain extent, Rowan, about the fact that he might not be able to keep it up. And the reason why I say that is because I think the underlying stats are decent, but the problem is Eze coming back, and then that means Gallagher might play in a deeper position, and then also MacArthur, him being out of the team, that means Milivojevic comes in and takes those set pieces off him. Aspie or Greenwood out? Aspie might play over James as is Leicester away, but Greenwood out is overdue. I think Greenwood has a really good fixture though, so I'd still rather get rid of Azpilicueta, to be honest, Goldhead. Rafinha, yeah, answer that question. Imad, no need to spam the chat. Should I bring in Region for Janssen or roll the transfer for next game week? I would roll it, and then you have 2 free transfers and more flexibility, Shivan. Force and Rudiger long term, he's still a good option. He's still, I'd say, my top 5 or 6 defenders to own, but I just think if you can get to them, Chilwell and James, they're such great assets to own, pretty much. Would you start Livramento or Hwang? Livramento, Toby. Worth transferring out Rafinha. I don't have Jota or Foden, says Elliot. Well, Foden does have a knock, so he might not play, so you're not too bad there. But I think it is worth transferring him out for Jota or Foden. Do you think Mason Mount will start? Good question. I think he will, based on the fact that Lukaku, I think he's been ruled out for this game week in particular. So I think it could be a case of Mount and Havertz occupying 2 of those front 3 positions. Foden for Jota. I still prefer Foden, yeah, but obviously he is a bit of a doubt, and I wouldn't be getting rid of him for Jota. Ramos is back. Yeah, he's back in training, so he could be back for midweek against City in the Champions League. Foden is out for sure, fair enough, yeah, I'm seeing a few people say that. Start Ramsdale or Foster? Ramsdale for me, for sure, Bobby. Rudiger had scored against Leicester in May 2021, yeah. Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, true. That was the kind of game that mattered the most. But yeah, he did score in the Premier League. I think that's what you're referring to. He also scored, I think, in the game earlier, even with Lampard, and also the season before. So he likes scoring against them. Adam Armstrong or Foden? I'd still say Foden normally, but of course, if he is out, then Armstrong is the simple one. Eddie Howe has COVID, won't manage the first game for Newcastle. Says Eddie, thank you very much for that. I actually wasn't even able to see it. There's so much news coming out. There's always something happening, isn't it? Kevin De Bruyne, of course, getting COVID since my last video, which was uploaded today. But thank you very much for that. Bringing in Jota, but have to find a 4.2 defender to afford him. 4.2 defender. Let me actually Yeah, it has to be Ben Johnson for me. Look, just kind of thinking of one straight away. Let me actually check the 4.5 million defenders. But yeah, it has to be Johnson for me. Yeah, he's the only one I'd probably go for there at 4.2 million. If anyone else has an idea, let me know as well in the comments. Rafinha or Diaz bench? I would bench Rafinha, Imad. Foden, Jota or Greenwood? Long term, I'd rather have Foden, to be honest. But obviously, the problem is he does have a knock right now, unfortunately. Yeah, sure thing, Adil. Say your team. Rudiger to James -4, worth it? Maybe not this week, based on the fact that Rudiger has a good record against Leicester. Maybe I'm overthinking it there, but long term, it will be worth the hit, I think. Hit the like button, guys. Thanks, Dylan, for your help. Game weeks, and good luck for game week 12. Oh no, you probably said something else, not game weeks. I'm thinking too much FPL there. Thank you, Sidinja, for the shout out, and good to see you here once again, mate. Chilwell or James for a transfer in? I still think Chilwell, but I like both of them a lot. It's 50-50. This is literally the definition of 50-50. I would just about go with Chilwell. The problem there is that Alonso is actually back now. How out of the first game? Thank you very much, Lewis Hamilton, for that. Little update there. As Eddie says as well, yeah, he is out, which is going to be interesting. I still think, obviously, he's been able to transmit his messages across to the team. Let's wait and see, of course, but he's got a hell of a job there at Newcastle. Downgrade Vardy to Wilson this week to build a solid squad for Christmas period. That's not a bad idea, to be honest. If you're in a situation where you don't have a good bench or squad depth, then I probably would do that. How Ramos is possible back in form after this long injury? Well, I'm not sure if he's going to be in form. It might take him a bit of time to get up to speed, but I think long term, if he can get fully fit, he has a lot to offer PSG, to be honest. Downgrade Diaz to who? I have Chilwell, Livramento, Cancelo and Trent. Duffy. Need to free up money to get Son, Jota, Kane. I wouldn't go for Duffy because long term I don't think his place is secure in the team. You could go for Lamptey, but I think that's a bit risky, to be honest, because of his injury record. I'd either go for Ben Johnson in your case, Elliot, or go for a Ben White or Tomiyasu. And my kind of preference there would be Johnson, I think, especially if you have Ramsdale already. Force on this for a hit next week, Mbeumo to Bowen and Antonio to Wilson to afford the Bowen transfer. I do like it, but the Antonio to Wilson move is something good for the next 4 game weeks, but long term, Antonio's the better asset, I think. When's the face cam coming back? Probably the next stream or whatever, but yeah, right now, literally just a mess. I mean, I look the same as usual, to be honest, but yeah, I haven't been doing, I think, the face cam in recent videos, but that should change again. I've seen a few people mention it today. Foster, James, Trent, Cancelo, Salah, Rafinha, Foden, Mbeumo, Antonio, Vardy, Tony. Ramsdale, Livramento, Duffy, Saka, 2 free transfers. What should I do, and have I benched the right players? Good questions. Thank you, Adil. I agree with your bench. Livramento, you could arguably play over Rafinha or Vardy. That's what I would consider. But other than that, I think the rest is completely fine. And in terms of 2 free transfers, tough one. It's a tough one. If, before the kind of news we got today from Crystal Palace, I would have said Mbeumo to Gallagher is a good long-term transfer, or even Rafinha to Gallagher. I'd definitely go for it. I'm not sure how much money you have in the bank, but if you have enough money, Rafinha to Jota could be a good move too. But I still think Gallagher's a good pick. I just don't think he's as good of a pick now, based on the news we got. And you can save the other free transfer for next week. But if not, if you're looking to get those Spurs players in, then you can downgrade Vardy to Wilson, for example, and then upgrade Rafinha to Son. That's something I'm looking to do myself, Adil. So any of those kind of scenarios that I mentioned, I'd definitely do that in your case. You sure James is still a must-have of the next 2 fixtures? He's not a must-have. I just think having one of Chilwell or James is advantageous. I don't think it's essential, but in terms of the fullbacks, Trent, Cancelo, James or Chilwell, you want to have at least 1 or 2 of them, to be honest. But yeah, I agree. He's not completely necessary. Start King or Hwang? I'd start Hwang. I own James, Chilwell, Livramento, Gallagher, Saka as of now, and Mbeumo, Rafinha, Jimenez, and Kane, Vardy as of now. Have to bench 2. What would you do? Well, you're getting... Yeah, so I would have said Vardy could be someone to bench, but of course you are getting Kane in. So I'd bench Rafinha, I think, from those you mentioned, and... That's a tough one. I mean, the rest, I wouldn't want to bench Jimenez despite the fact that it's a tough fixture on paper. That is a tough one. I definitely would bench Rafinha though. As for the other one, it's tough. It's 50-50. Get Eze instead of Gallagher? Not for me. It's a wait and see with him first. Obviously, Elise is another very impressive player. He's doing really well whenever he comes on, but I'd still rather go for Gallagher. Keep Mbeumo this week or sell him for Gallagher? I probably would keep Mbeumo for this week, Sabir, if there wasn't all this kind of negative news from Palace concerning Gallagher in regards to MacArthur being out of the side, and obviously Milivojevic coming back in, taking set pieces, of course, from Gallagher, and also with Eze being back in contention. I would have said go for it even this week, but I'd keep Mbeumo. Get well soon. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Some abbreviations, I still need to learn them. I'm acting like I'm, I don't know, 50. My overall rank is 5,547. What percentage would you say that is at the top? I'm no mathematician, to be honest, but you're definitely well within the top 1%. You're probably looking towards, the top 0.5% or something? I mean, a mathematician in the chat will probably be able to give a better answer than that, but you're well within the top 1%. Mbeumo to Rafinha to start. I have Emerson too. I would start Mbeumo, obviously, over Rafinha. I would rather start Rafinha over Emerson, though. Foden, a hold or sell? I think he's still a hold, because even if he does miss Game Week 12, he should be back by Game Week 13. People just ignore Watkins and hype Wilson. Fair enough, but the thing is with Watkins, it's also another wait and see. He's got a new manager. He could have a nice managerial bounce. They're both quite similar, but I think in terms of, minutes per point or points per minute, I think Wilson is a bit better, and I think Wilson doesn't need as many chances as Watkins to get points and score goals. But of course, Watkins is a decent option, but I won't be going for him just yet. John Shanley says, benching Rafinha, Romero's out for Spurs. Yeah, that's true. Romero's their best defender, in my opinion. He's a quality defender, and you'll only get better with age, but... yeah, I think Leeds could score a goal. I think if Bamford was in the starting 11 or he was back fit, I think that would be a big plus for Leeds. But I think Spurs could still, keep a clean sheet there, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not comfortable with benching Rafinha, but then again, I'm not comfortable with benching Vardy or anyone else in my team. But yeah, I agree. It is risky, to be honest. FPL Dream says, I really don't know what to do. I want to make it at least 3 transfers, but only have 1 transfer. I need to replace Sanchez for a playing keeper. I want to take out Rudiger for Cancelo and Havertz to Jota. So, long term, I think the best move is Rudiger to Cancelo, but maybe it's kind of a question of, want versus need. Maybe hold off that for now and focus on what you need. So, if you don't have any goalkeeper at all, then Sanchez to a playing goalkeeper, this is the perfect opportunity to make that transfer. And of course, the same goes for Havertz to Jota. So honestly, if you don't have any keeper at all, I'd probably make a goalkeeper transfer in your situation, FPL Dream. What's the news out of Palace? Was thinking Saka out for Gallagher, not Rafinha out yet. The news is basically MacArthur is going to be out, I believe, in game week 12. And that means Milivojevic is going to be playing probably for the next few game weeks. And he takes set pieces out from Gallagher. And the other news is that Eze is back. And that means Gallagher could play in a deeper position. Of course, this is all hypothetical, but it's very likely to happen as well. Rafinha to Jota, good move, Osama. If I had enough money, I probably would consider something similar. Force on Bernardo Silva as a differential, cheaper than Foden, but still gets attacking returns. I think some of the attacking returns have been lucky. I think Bernardo's a quality player in real life, probably City's best player at the moment, but I think from an FPL perspective, I think Foden is just going to haul more and have bigger hauls in general, and I just think he's just a better FPL asset if I'm being completely honest. But Bernardo's a good differential, but he's not someone I probably would go for. I'd rather go for Jota or Foden, but maybe if you have a good feeling about him, just go for him, and I think he could actually reward you. Foden out for Jota. I still prefer Foden, to be honest, but of course, with his knock, it could be worth making that move. But for me, I'm keeping Foden. Force on going without a keeper. It's not ideal, to be honest, but this could be a good chance to move Sanchez on to a Gaeta or to a Ramsdale, and I think Ramsdale has the highest ceiling of any kind of cheap goalkeeper, so it's actually a good opportunity right now for anyone who owns Sanchez to kind of go off that. Is Vardy, Smith Rowe to Armstrong and Son worth it? I think it is. Just bear in mind with Armstrong, he's got a few tough fixtures coming up, so it's not the best time to get in on him, but of course he is facing Norwich. He could reward you right off the bat, but they are good transfers. Is it worth keeping Benrahma? If not, who to get? I'd rather go for Bowen. I know it might seem a bit sideways, but I think statistically he's vastly superior. I was talking about this in the early game weeks of the season when Benrahma was getting a lot of points. Despite having kind of low, unsustainable numbers, Bowen was still ticking along nicely in terms of the stats. He just wasn't getting those points and returns. And now he's got both of them in abundance. Look, you don't have to do that, of course. And another one you can go for is Gallagher. Let's see. So Rafinha has 4 goals in his last 6 and still has good fixtures to come. Yeah, he's got a few decent fixtures to come, but around game week 16-17, the fixtures are awful for a long period of time for Leeds, and that's when I'm looking to get rid of him. But yeah, you can keep him right now, and I still think he's kind of fixture-proof to a certain extent. Gaeta, Trent, Cancelo, James, Livramento, Cornet, Gallagher, Salah, Mbumo, Antonio Kane, Ramsdale, Rudiger, Rafinha, Hwang. Thoughts, and what would you change subs-wise? Subs-wise, I don't think I'd change too much. To be honest, looking at it briefly, yeah, I probably wouldn't change much. Maybe a Rudiger or Rafinha could come in for a Cornet potentially, but I can see why you've played him. And as for the team overall, I think it's a solid team. You've got a lot of squad depth there. Looking at it, so you've got 5 midfielders and you've got 3 strikers. So you're always going to have these kind of benching selection headaches and form and fixtures. It's a wonderful thing. Fixtures don't always translate to points, so you're going to sometimes be losing out there, but it's very good, strong squad depth there. Dylan, ¿mantendrás a Vardy o vendes? En este momento, Ignacio, creo que voy a tenerlo en mi equipo por varias semanas, pero si no, lo voy a sacar por Kane o por Heung-min Son. Y para obtener eso, tengo que mover Vardy a un Wilson o alguien así. Pero sí, en este momento lo voy a tener y lo voy a mantener, pero si no, Son o Kane van a venir en mi equipo. Welcome to Flying Dutchman. Good to see you on here. Hi Dylan, hope you're well, mate. How do you rate Rafinha's chances versus Spurs this weekend? I just think he has a decent chance. I'm not comfortable benching him, if I'm being honest, Tendal, but it's not absolutely high. I think if it was under Nuno, if Spurs were still had him, then yeah, I would fancy Rafinha even more in this fixture. But of course, he has a good chance. And as for Livramento or Diaz, that's a tough one. Nah. I mean, I wouldn't want to bench either of them. If you already have Cancelo, then I would play Livramento instead. But Diaz against Everton, I think he can get a clean sheet there, and I'd play both of them over Rafinha. Vardy and Foden out, Kane and Rafinha in. Getting Rafinha in now is a bit of a weird one, but I can see why you've done it. Of course, he is in good form after all, and fixtures aren't everything, but the fixtures are very poor, I tell you, from Game Week 16 onwards. 5.9 million midfielder option, still Gallagher for me. I just don't think he's as good of an asset, without set pieces and playing from a deeper position. Good day from Australia. Given we are going into 10 game weeks in 40 days, What would you recommend? 4 at the back and 3 would be okay for a more balanced team. Good question. I talked about this earlier in terms of the formations and should we go big at the back and in midfield and kind of take away our money in the attack. And it's ultimately about the players you have. I think it's good either way. But looking at how many options we have this year in defence, I think I'd rather go for 4 in defence rather than anything else, if I'm being honest. But that's not to say that you can't go for 4 midfielders like, for example, Foden, Jota, Son and Salah, because they could easily do very well. So both of them are good, but I'd rather go for maybe 4 defenders and maybe 2 or 3 quite expensive midfielders who can do very well from 7 million onwards. But there's so many options in midfield and defence, to be honest. Great question. Thank you very much. Kane captaincy run will surely have to pay off after blank. Yeah, I mean, not necessarily though, because Kane maybe isn't as motivated when playing for Spurs, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I can see why you say that. He is a quality player, and will he finish this season on 1 goal, 1 assist? Obviously not, and he probably won't finish the year or the month on that. So you expect the form to be a result and a product of those fixtures. Should I bench Jimenez? I probably would try not to, Ron. I think he could do well against West Ham. Welcome, Nuisance. Good day to you as well. Start Gallagher or Rafinha or Livramento. I would start either Gallagher or Livramento, Adil, and I'd probably go for Gallagher. But that news about Gallagher and Palace doesn't really fill me with confidence now. Thoughts on Vardy and Havertz to Jesus and Son. I like them. I don't like Jesus too much long term, but in Game Week 12 specifically, he can do very well for you, Sam. Buy Foden or keep Havertz. I'd keep Havertz, especially with Foden being a doubt. Cornet versus Bowen. I know there's been a lot of love for Cornet, and I've been talking about him. I think he's a good buy, and he could be a very good choice for you. But I'd actually just rather go. Let me try and get the question up again. Yeah, Bowen. I'd rather go for Bowen instead, to be honest. I think long term he's a better asset. Do you think Foden will play? Pep said maybe. He said his situation is improving, but I think if he has still got a little knock, and there's a risk of anything happening, then he's not going to, play him at all, and he'll be rested for the Champions League. Would you bring in Still for a hit? No chance, mate. I wouldn't do that. Because you're essentially taking a hit for a goalkeeper to play for 1 week and cover you for 1 week, but, you're not going to gain too much from that. Foden bench. I'd still start him, but I think he could be benched, yeah, or even just be left out of the squad entirely. So tell me a better 5 to 6 million forward, says Hussein. Well, at the moment, I think for the next few game weeks, it has to be Hwang. But other than that, it has to be Armstrong just for this game week alone. But you don't have too many options around that price, and you can always go for a bench fodder option at 4.5 million and then upgrade your midfield and defence. I plan to get Bowen for Smith Rowe and Boomer soon. Should I get Jesus for Antonio? Honestly, Mirza, I probably wouldn't, because I think Antonio can do well in some of these upcoming fixtures, and the games from Game Week 16 onwards are very good, so I probably wouldn't do that. Should I be worried for Foden not starting? Maybe not worried, but I think he might not start, to be honest. But if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. In my case, for example, I wouldn't mind too much, because it means Rafinha comes in, and I wasn't too comfortable with benching him anyway. What do you make of Argentina versus Brazil the other day? A bit of a letdown in the end. Otamendi using the dark arts and Rafinha was a bit naughty. Yeah, I mean, that's to be expected, to be honest, of those games. There's always a big fiery combative spirit between both of them, and Brazil do it as well. In the 2019 Copa America semi-final, Otamendi got elbowed in the face in the penalty box and nothing was given, so it goes both ways. As for the game overall, yeah, I was very disappointed as well, because I think Brazil were very nervous. They kept booting the ball out of play. Argentina could have easily taken advantage with a bit of quality on the ball. I think Messi grew into the game, but he still was pretty poor by his standards. So yeah, I think Argentina with a bit more quality and a bit of composure, they could have easily, broken past Brazil. But both teams are very good defensively. They don't concede many goals, and that's why Argentina, for example, are unbeaten in 27 games, and Brazil, they're very hard to beat. They've only lost a few games under their manager in the space of 5 years. So both really good teams. They're the kind of main teams that can actually win the World Cup from South America. But it'll be interesting to see how they do against European teams. I think that's where the measuring stick is, and that's what will determine if they can actually win it or not. 8.1 million midfielder. It's still Foden for me, but the problem with him, obviously, is that he does have a knock. But otherwise, I think Jota for the next few game weeks is a good one. Vardy, Diaz, Livramento, pick one. To start, it has to be Diaz for me, Genius Gamer. Hi from New Zealand. Great show. Thank you, Bob. Good to see you here. New Zealand, legendary country. You know, home of Carl Urban, Lord of the Rings, and so much more, mate. Good to see you here. Happy International Men's Day, Dylan and chat. Oh, thank you, Colin. I'll be honest, I forgot about that, but I did see something somewhere. Thank you very much, mate. To you as well. Would you replace Foden on wildcard, and if yes, for who? If you're on a wildcard, then maybe I would, and I'd look at Jota, at least for the next few game weeks, and then get off him. Vardy, Son, Benrahma to Pukki, Son and Jota for -8 hit long term. Is this worth it? I like Son and Jota, but is it worth it long term? I'm not too sure, to be honest, Mario. I think the Son move is very good, but I mean, you are getting rid of, for example, Son Benrahma, who I'm not really too fond of anyway. I like the Jota and Son moves, but is it worth a -8? Maybe not, to be honest. Long term it could be, but I try to just limit it to a -4 if possible. Smith Rowe, Hwang first bench. Hwang, definitely, Amir. Does Tony stand a chance as a keep? He does, but he needs to show some form for once because he's been awful recently. But I did actually mention him in my transfer tips video. I said he's a hold for now, but if he does blank against Newcastle, then it's not looking too good for him. Gaeta, same defence. Gallagher, Gaeta, yeah, he's a good goalkeeper as well. I think him and Ramsdale are the best keepers you can go for, and I wish I had Gallagher. I mean, I can get him in for Townsend, but I'm a bit concerned about the comments made today by Vieira. Welcome, Emafon. I probably just butchered that name, didn't I? The risk if we play Foden is that he plays only a few minutes. Yep, true. But, you know, you're always going to get this sometimes with City assets, and Pep is just a bit of a conundrum, to be honest. Hwang, first bench. Yep, I'd go for that as well, Ali. Fernandes, the goalkeeper of Brentford, or Foster? Who do I start? I'd go for Fernandes. I need to bench 2 of Vardy, Saka, Rafinha, Antonio, Tony. Definitely Saka. I'd bench him, and I would probably bench Rafinha. It's between Rafinha and Vardy. I'm 50-50 on that, if I'm being honest, but I'd definitely bench Saka. Jota or Sane? I think you mean Mane. Jota. I think he just offers better value for money. Pretty even match, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so too. I think Brazil probably had the better chances, but yeah, I think both defences kind of cancelled each other out, to be honest. Sell Rafinha or Saka for Sonaldo? Saka, definitely Alpha. Bench Rafinha and Saka, says Ali. Yeah, I agree. If not Vardy, but yeah, I completely agree. Sarr as goalkeeper with no money in the bank, should I take a hit or stick with him? I'd stick with him for the next 3 and then get rid of him. He'll probably do pretty poorly in Game Week 12, but he can do well in Game Weeks 13 and 14. Salah or Kane captain? I'd probably say Kane. He was higher up in my captaincy list earlier on. Would you risk captaincy for Son? I'd consider it. If I had him, he'd at least be my vice, and he might even be my captain, to be honest. Hey Dylan, Vardy to Kane or Ronaldo? I think Kane, and then you can always move on to Ronaldo in Game Week 16 or later on. Bench 2, Livramento, Rafinha, Jimenez. I would bench Rafinha and possibly Jimenez, but I'm not really too confident about that. Bench Jimenez or Foden? Jimenez, but I wouldn't even mind playing him, to be honest. And Foden is more of a risk, obviously, this week. Well, to be fair, though, Jimenez might not even play himself. That's what Bruno Lager said. Play Foden or Livramento? I'd play Foden still, but just bear in mind he might not play this week. Bench Chilwell for Livramento. ¿De qué país eres? Hablas muy bien español y inglés. I'm from Argentina, but I have dual nationality, basically. Thank you very much, Buster Blade. And bench Chilwell for Livramento. I wouldn't bench Chilwell. I'd start him over Livramento. Who should I bench, Rudiger or Livramento? I would bench Rudiger in that case because I think he's got less attacking threat than Chilwell, but then again, he does like playing against Leicester. Rafinha for Bernardo. I don't think that's a bad swap, to be honest, Stephen. Once again, I'm not too keen on Bernardo, should I say, but he's a decent option. Switch Foden with, I think, Jota. Worth to take a -32 hit for a new team? No chance, I'm in, no. Definitely not, trust me. I've done stuff like that in the past, taking massive hits, not -32, but I've taken massive hits before, and it just doesn't pay off, mate. I have Salah, Jota, Gray, Benrahma and Sarr. I want to replace Sarr, and I have 2.1 million in the bank. I think Jota's a good move for you, mate, and if not, obviously, when Foden's fit, he's another good one. But I'd be looking at Jota mainly. Double up Chelsea defence. Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing. But then again, it's not the best time to get another Chelsea defender in right now. But I think Rudiger If not, just Chilwell and James. I think, yeah, that's definitely worth it. And if not, just go for Diaz and Cancelo as a double City defence. Bernardo, Rafinha and Vardy, should I take any out? You could maybe get rid of Rafinha. And obviously Vardy could be a very nice placeholder for Harry Kane. If you have enough money, do Vardy to Kane, I think. Is Havertz starting for Chelsea? I think so, Kian. Thanks, Dylan. Best wishes from India. Thank you, Rude. Good to see you here. Salah is injured. I hope that's not kind of these what's it called? These bait. But it probably is. Gallagher, Rose and Price. Looks like I have to get Christensen out next week instead of Rico Henry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised about him going up in price. It did take quite long though. I'm a bit surprised about that. And yeah, I missed out on it as well. But I'm not too bothered, to be honest. Argentina could be dark horse for next World Cup. Scaloni has really improved them. Still can't forget how Maradona, RIP, wasted that great squad they had in 2006. And then picks up Zanetti and Cambiasso. Yeah, in 2006 it was Jose Peckerman who's the manager. And he did pick Cambiasso and Zanetti. It was the 2010 World Cup I think you're referring to. And yeah, Maradona, look, he was one of the best players of all time, but as a manager, he was pretty poor, to be honest. And yeah, Scaloni's really transformed. I mean, I'll be honest, the last Copa America, 2019, Argentina was so poor in certain games, like against Colombia, Paraguay. And honestly, they could have been knocked out in the group stages. But, you know, ever since, I think, the Paraguay game, you know, that something clicked and then they pretty much didn't lose for many years, to be honest. And that Brazil semi-final, which I think was one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen, that's the last time Argentina lost. So yeah, he's done a great job, to be honest. Double seat defense worth it, definitely. And for me, it has to be Cancelo and Diaz. Discord link, I'll actually try to get it up right now. Yeah, I might actually pin it in the live chat. But yeah, feel free to join. I'll actually try set it up now. And you can join the Discord as well. And then I'll go through some of your other questions as well. Thank you very much. It's 8 o'clock now. We've been going on for an hour. I normally go on for like 2 to 2 hours and a half or something like that. I might not be able to do that today. But I'll try my best to go on as long as possible and get all of your questions and comments answered. So let's actually go here. Let's get this show on the road. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to get the link right now. Let's see. Actually forgot how to... Yeah, okay, invite people. Alright, create invite. Here we go. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've never seen this before. Apologies, I sound a bit baffed here. So that is the link to join the Discord. So there you go. Hopefully that works. Tell me if it does, because I think at one point I did post one and it didn't work. So let me know if that link works or not. I'll be putting it in the description of my live streams and videos as well, when possible. 2010, I mean. Oh yeah, you corrected yourself anyway, John. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you though about Maradona and the whole situation. To be honest, pretty fair assessment, I have to say. Yeah, you did, but no worries, mate. Which two would you start? Livramento, Rafinha, and Boomer or James? Yeah, I butchered it. Apologies. I'll call you Ocon. I would start Livramento and James. I mean, I wouldn't bench James at all. Rohit says, I'm looking to strengthen my team. What do you think about it? Livramento, Cancelo, James, Reguilon, Salah, Son, Gallagher, Jota, CR7, Wilson, McCarthy. It's a solid team, mate. I don't think you need to make any changes right now, to be honest. But yeah, I think right now your team's sorted for this week. But longer term, obviously, there can be a few adjustments like Jota to Foden, for example. But yeah, Antonio could be one you could get in the coming weeks as well. And then, yeah, maybe McCarthy. I mean, I don't like goalkeeper transfers too much, but obviously he looks really good in Game Week 12 specifically. Reguilon's not the best pick, I think, in Game Week 12 specifically, but he could still do all right. I don't think any game is a green fixture anymore. That's a good point, to be fair. I still think Norwich at home could be, but let's wait and see how they do against Dean Smith. Maybe it's a bit unfair to kind of damn them already. I got Benteke. What do you think of him? I talked about him earlier when someone asked about Edouard and Benteke, and I just think he's going to be in and out of the team from time to time, depending on the opposition, like against City where he was just benched out of nowhere. But when he does start, he could be a decent one, and he's still someone worth considering. We don't really have a standout 5 to 6 million option up front. Play Hwang or Livramento or Duffy? Definitely Livramento for me. Hwang to Wilson or Douglas Luiz to Gallagher? Douglas Luiz to Gallagher is obviously the bigger upgrade, but obviously there you're going to have a case of 8 attackers. So if you are prepared to do that, then go for that instead. I think that's obviously a bigger upgrade. But if you would rather have fewer benching headaches, still have good squad depth, but you don't want to overcomplicate your team selection, then Hwang to Wilson looks good. Have 1 free transfer. Should I get Jota for Foden or Havertz? Oh, that's a tough one. Maybe I'd hold, to be honest. I know Jota has a good record against Arsenal, but I'd probably hold and keep Foden and Havertz for now. Kane and Gallagher for Vardy and Rafinha. I think that looks good, Steve Kerr. Despite, obviously, the news surrounding Crystal Palace and how that affects Gallagher that we talked about. But I probably would do that. Rudiger to Region. I have Chua already. It's not a bad move, to be honest, Omar Harry, but you don't have to make that move this week. If you have 1 free transfer, you can hold and then decide and reassess going into Game Week 13. 1.2 million in the bank plus Jesus. I want an attacker who... I'm not sure what your other strikers are, but I think long term I definitely want Antonio. So he is one to look out for. And over the next 4, you can get Wilson. So get Wilson in and then move him on for Antonio. Do you think my rank will be affected by not having a playing goalkeeper this week? You can still do well without him, but obviously the more players you have on the pitch, the merrier. And even if it's just 2 points or 1 point, that's an extra point that you gain there. To be honest, you won't be severely affected by it. But if you have a free transfer, then make it. But I wouldn't take a hit. I think that it will leave you in a bad position, in my opinion. Free transfer, Aspie out for Chilwell. I would do that, Kian, despite the fact that Aspie could start this weekend. Gaito McCarthy, Gaito for me. Rafinha, Livramento, Broca, bench order. Livramento first, Rafinha second, Broca third. Pick 1 to play and 1 to put as first sub. Foden, Duffy, Allen. Foden starts, Duffy first sub. Liron. Kane and Gallagher for Vardy and Rafinha -4. I'll do that, Steve Kerr. I think I probably just had it already. Thank you very much, Rock and Roll. Start in Mbeumo or Rafinha? I'd start in Mbeumo. Thank you very much, Salam. Any replacements for Sanchez, but I have Foster. What should I do? You can just start Foster, but if you want a replacement, Manda, then you can actually go for, instead of Sanchez, you can go for Gaito or Ramsdale. But if not, Foster's fine, to be fair. Bench Smith Rowe or Rafinha? I would bench Smith Rowe and start Rafinha. Is there any possibility that you would do Discord voice chat discussion? Yeah, I think that could actually be on the cards, to be fair, and that's something I'm planning to do, especially with members, channel members. We've got our own chat as well, so the more channel members that join Discord, we can start to do that as well. Thanks, mate. Your advice always makes things easier and clear. That's why I always look forward to your streams. Thank you very much appreciate it. Obviously, unfortunately, I butchered a name earlier, but thank you for your kind words, and hopefully you found this useful. Same with everyone else who's watching. And it's been a blast today. I just made it sound like I'm about to wrap up, but we'll get there soon. Greenwood this week, I would keep him if I had him because he's facing Watford, but otherwise, I'd be looking to sell long term for sure. Thanks, mate. All the best. Thank you very much, Supem. You like Timo Werner? I'm guessing you're saying I look like him. I mean, to be fair, my face isn't on. It's just my channel logo, mate. But thank you very much. Change Aspilicueta to Chilwell or roll the transfer? I would actually just change Aspilicueta to Chilwell, but you don't have to, of course, but I think it is worth it in general. Have you made any transfers? I haven't made any, mate. I've got a few different options that I'm kind of weighing up against each other, but I haven't. As an OG Antonio owner, I'm not getting him out. Same here. That's the problem with getting rid of him and then getting him back in. You lose a bit of value, and it's hard to get him into the squad again. What's the likelihood of Aspilicueta playing this week? I'm not too sure, to be honest, but... I think it's a bit more likely than it was in recent weeks, but that doesn't necessarily mean he definitely will. Captain Kane this week, is it good? You still have a chance to change it, of course, but I think it's a good choice. Obviously, he's not shown too much form in the Premier League, but obviously great international week that he's had just now. And of course, he's had some decent underlying stats. He's been vastly underperforming, and you would suspect he's going to start getting those goals soon. Those fixtures should translate into a bit of form at least, but it's a good option, I think. Start Jimenez or Mbeumo. Now, that's a tough one. But based on the fact that Jimenez could be at least, on the bench based on the internationals recently, I would probably go for Mbeumo. Bowen or Gallagher? To start this week, I'd actually go for Bowen, maybe. Any suggestions for a 5.4 or less defender? For me, it has to be, Region, I'd say. When is the deadline? It's tomorrow at 11 a.m. UK time. Son versus Kane thoughts. As always, Lewis, that I've been talking about in the last few days and videos, I think Son offers better value, but Kane might be better for your team structure and as a placeholder for Ronaldo. But I think Son, kind of excluding all the other factors into it, Son's had a better season. He's got better underlying stats. He looks sharper. Maybe not recently, but he does look sharper. And also, I just think he offers better value. Bench Smith Rowe or Livramento? I'd bench Smith Rowe, definitely. And would I think of going live on Twitch? Potentially, to be honest. That's something I've considered. But then again, I would also want to stream on YouTube as well. So, maybe if I find a way to stream on both at the same time, but then again, having two different chats, that'll be an interesting one. Any chance for Foden to play tomorrow? There is a chance, but there's probably a bigger chance of him not playing. But I'd say, there is a chance, of course. Do you think Tsimikas could end up as first choice? His stats are better than Robertson. Honestly, I don't think so, because Tsimikas has been better than Robertson, you could argue, this season, and he still hasn't really gotten a sniff. But obviously, you never know. He's been that good that he can ultimately change Klopp's mind, despite how good Robertson has been in recent seasons. But I think Tsimikas, obviously, we'd love him to be kind of nailed at that price, but I think Robertson will still be first choice. I think Aspi will start since Thiago Silva will probably be rested. Fair enough. Like I said, I think there is a higher chance of him starting this weekend than the previous weeks, but that doesn't mean it's a guarantee. Should I take out Bernardo Silva for Smith Rowe Gallagher? I probably wouldn't take out Bernardo Silva if you have him. But I probably would say Gallagher still over Smith Rowe. Hwang over Rafinha? I probably would consider it and maybe even start him over him. Thank you, Turmeric Laporte. I'll get the membership. I would love to talk about football and FPL. And no friends who watch football. I mean, pretty much, I'd say all my friends watch football. But I mean, I can relate. Sometimes you're interested in something and your friends aren't, and it's a bit, it's not really ideal. But I mean, it'll be good, chatting to members and subscribers and everything about football and FPL would be really good. And I think having a back-to-back discussion. Obviously, I'd love to do it somehow for YouTube, maybe like a phone-in or something. Having positive discussions and, different opinions and stuff. So it's actually a good idea. Foden captain and vice to Salah. I wouldn't captain Foden based on especially with the knock he has, to be honest. Obviously, if he was fully fit and there were no issues or concerns, then there's no problem with that. Start one, Livramento, Christensen, Aspilicueta. I'd start Livramento. Mbeumo Smith Rowe, says Potsy. Mbeumo for me. Should I get Gait instead of Ramsdale next week? I still prefer Ramsdale. The reason why is because if both of them don't get a clean sheet, who will most likely get bonus points and saves? I think it's Ramsdale. But of course, Gait is still a good option. If you back him and Crystal Palace's fixtures more, then go for him. But I prefer Ramsdale just a little bit more. Is Vardy to Jesus worth it? I think in Game Week 12, Jesus will outscore Vardy, but long term, over the next 5, I'd rather have Vardy. And obviously, if I were to get rid of Vardy, it would be for a Ronaldo in Game Week 16 or a Harry Kane in Game Week 12 or 13. No shouts on Ronaldo, captain. No, I actually talked about him in my preview. He was my number one captaincy choice this week. I think if I had him, he probably would be my captain. I think he's a great shout because of the fixture. The only thing that would put me off is United's form and how poor they are as a collective unit. Bench Livramento or Hwang? I would bench Hwang. Would you start Benrahma over Livramento? I'd start Livramento, mate, to be honest, Vasco. Thanks and good luck. Thank you very much, mate. And hopefully you got that answer. Livramento or Mbeumo or Jimenez for bench? That is tough, mate. Probably Jimenez, but I wouldn't want to... If I had him, I wouldn't want to bench him either. Double City and Liverpool defence, I'm guessing you're saying, John. I would rather go for a double City backline. You watch any other sports? Formula 1, if you count that as a sport, but yeah. And tennis, especially when Federer's, well, unfortunately he's injured and he's always injured nowadays, but, when he's playing, I'm interested in tennis as well. Should I take out Silva and Rafinha for Gallagher and Jota for a -4? I think those are decent transfers, to be honest, but I probably would hold Ismail. I can't even keep up reading the messages and you answer every question. Very impressive. A pleasure listening to you. Thank you very much, FR. It can be difficult sometimes, especially when the chat is very lively. And maybe, you know, kind of in a way, I'm happy it's not that lively as it sometimes is, because my voice is very strained, unfortunately. But thank you very much, mate. Another City loss? No, I don't think so. I think they'll dispatch Everton, to be honest. Should I get rid of De Gea? Been having him since week 1. Some people are thinking of getting him in ahead of those good fixtures for United up until February, but I'd rather get, once again, Ramsdale, Gaeta, McCarthy, etc. Start Jimenez or Saint-Maximin? I'd actually start Jimenez. Son or Foden long term? Great question. Maybe Son, but I do like Foden too. Bench 1, Aspi, Livramento or Rafinha? Probably Aspi, actually. Do you watch esports? I actually don't, to be honest. Trossard or Zaha? As an asset overall, I actually prefer Trossard just a little bit more, but Zaha has better fixtures, so I'd go for him. Lewis or Max? Max for me, definitely. I'm tired of Mercedes winning for 7 years in a row here. I mean, yeah, fair enough. You can say, well, back in the day, you know, Schumacher dominated and thank you and all this, and fair enough, but it's so tiring seeing the same constructor winning every damn year. And I like how Verstappen drives. He reminds me a lot of Michael Schumacher, and for that reason, I definitely want him to win. I actually wouldn't mind if he, you know, got a few titles in a row, but I need something different, to be honest. Foden, Benrahma to Son, Brownhill. Getting Son in, fair enough. If you already have another bench fodder option like Brownhill, then I wouldn't do it because you're weakening your midfield and your squad depth. But if, you know, you already have 3 attackers and you already have 4 good midfielders, then I would do it, and I'd go for Son and Brownhill. Love from Bangladesh, thank you very much. Tasby, very much appreciated. Hopefully I haven't butchered your name as well. I've been doing that quite a bit today. I'll blame the illness, but thank you very much, mate. Hwang or Rafinha first bench? Tough question. Maybe Rafinha, but I'm not too sure about that one. Greenwood, okay. Switch to Foden. If I had Greenwood, I would keep him because Foden is, you know, a bit of a risk this weekend because he does have a knock. But otherwise, yeah, definitely a swap from Greenwood to Foden makes sense. Oladilan, Chile plays Argentina in January. Yeah, I heard something about Chile wanting to play it in a high altitude stadium or something like that. I think Chile will be right up for it. I don't think they're going to be as careless as they were against Ecuador when Vidal, you know, pretty much booted someone in the face and got sent off. I think Chile, they always... I mean, if you look at the recent results, I mean, it's always like a 0-0, a 1-1, you know, a very competitive draw, and if not, a narrow win. So it's a tough one, but... Yeah, it's going to be a tough game, to be honest. But with Argentina, they've already qualified. They might, you know, ease off a little bit. But they have a good opportunity right now to, I think, become the first nation to... you know, be unbeaten during the World Cup qualifiers in South America, and if they remain unbeaten in 2022, you know, the sky's the limit. They pretty much win 2 trophies, then they break the all-time record. But you know, that's kind of being a bit too optimistic. I think it's going to be very tough. Amar, thanks for the stream, Dylan. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you to Flying Dutchman, mate. Congratulations on Argentina qualifying. Thank you very much, Jose. And I thought Chile would beat Ecuador. I think you had 9 wins and 2 draws in qualifiers against Ecuador, so you got your first ever loss against them, and of course you were in a bit of good form, you know, 3 wins in a row, could have made it 4, and you've got the exact same record as Uruguay now, but it's tough. I mean, look at the qualifiers right now. Basically, unless you remain unbeaten like Brazil and Argentina have, it's very tough to qualify. Between 3rd and 8th, especially 4th and 8th, is so tight. Mount or Son? Definitely Son, mate, definitely. Bench Vardy this week. I am thinking about it, Ahmed, and because he's facing Chelsea, it's not the worst idea in the world, but benching Vardy is still a bit of a difficult one. Antonio Armstrong, definitely Antonio for me, especially long term. Your sports choices are similar to mine, including the Federer bit. Fantastic responses by you. I'm subscribed. Keep it up. Thank you for the subscription, mate. And yeah, with Federer, he's kind of like that transcendental figure who... Obviously, even if you don't like tennis or it's not really your thing, you know, the way he plays makes you, you know, get into it. The same goes for Schumacher in F1 and much more Messi in football. But of course, you know, there's so many great players. And obviously in tennis, you still have Nadal, who's one of the best ever. But in clay, he is another level. You know, probably that's like the best level of tennis, you know, him on clay courts. Then, of course, you have Djokovic now. And in F1, you know, got so many other drivers over the generations. A fan from Brunei... Wow. Do I know? I'll be honest, I've heard of Brunei, but not the last part. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. I've been getting a lot of pronunciations wrong today, I'd say, at least compared to usual. But I think I do know it, yeah. Obviously, if you have any more information, let me know. But thank you very much for watching. There's people watching from all areas of the globe, which is very nice to see. Kane will definitely blank this week. Watch and see. I wouldn't mind, to be honest. I mean, I don't have him at the moment, but that's not what Kane owners want to hear. Bench 1, Livramento, Rafinha, Foden or Tony? Probably Rafinha, Ibrahim. If you had to perma captain somebody for the rest of the season, who would you choose? Salah for me. At this moment in time, of course, that could change. But right now, it has to be Salah. Start Jimenez or Livramento? I would start Livramento, Kev. Ramsdale or Foster? Ramsdale. Johan. Play anyone from Hwang, Saint-Maximin or Smith Rowe? I would go for Hwang. Foster or Sarr this week? I'd go for Sarr. Hwang or Smith Rowe in first bench order? Hwang. Your favourite FPL YouTuber? Oh, thank you very much. He will when he does. Uruguay situation very tough. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised to be honest, but even from the beginning, I think they lost 4-2 to Ecuador. They've kind of been struggling from the get-go. If you're on a wild card, would you build your team around one premium forward to be able to alternate? I was asked this earlier actually. Someone asked me this in the preview, so I actually select a few questions and then answer it in the Q&A section. And I thought I can see why people want to do this. Maybe go for one premium or mid-price option and just play 4-5-1, for example. But I would still go for two. And I think with all these players coming back, we still have Bamford and Calvert-Lewin to return to fitness. I think we'll start to go to 2 and 3 forwards more often in our starting 11. So I can see the appeal of that, just having one premium strike and that's it. Yeah, I mean, maybe in your situation, you're asking the exact same thing. You're just asking about having just one premium striker and then switching between them. But that's what I want to do. I want to go from Vardy to maybe Kane and then to Ronaldo. So I would try to still have that if possible, but at the same time, try to have an Antonio and other mid-price options so you can always get to a Bamford or a Calvert-Lewin when they come back and hit form. Thanks for this. Love from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Kev. Good to see you here. And once again, people from all over the world is crazy. Captain Son this week, last game of this game week. I think he's a good option. I mean, I put him second in my list along with Kane. And obviously the fixtures are really good, but the form isn't. But I think Son's a good option. Do you think Kane will score? I think he will, but not because of his performance with England. That does fill him with confidence, or at least more confidence than he had before. But let's bear in mind that he did score a hat-trick in the Conference League very early on in the season, and then he didn't really translate that into the Premier League, so it's not a guarantee. And also another thing to bear in mind, I mean, not only are the opposition very weak for England, but also the English team is much better than the Spurs team. I mean, you have, for example, Reguilon and Emerson in one team, and then you have Chilwell and Reece James in the other, and so many other different examples. Kane and Ben Johnson versus Son and Davis. Kane and Ben Johnson for me, especially heading into this Christmas period where having more squad depth is just going to be more beneficial for you. Oh, damn. What am I doing? Gaeta, Foster, Rudiger, James, Diaz, Michael, Alexander-Arnold, Foden, Salah, Son, Mount, Gallagher, Davis, Gelhardt. 8 million for last forward. Any ideas? Ooh, good question. So let's see. Okay, so you have two kind of budget strikers there, don't you? I'd still go for Antonio. He's still my favourite, but if not, Wilson. Maybe Wilson for the next 4, then get in on Antonio in a few weeks' time. But yeah, looking at your team, I like your goalkeepers. I like your defence. Yeah, everything looks good. I'm not too sure about Mount though. And one thing I would consider in your situation, mate, is downgrading Mount to maybe a bench fodder option, rock and roll, and then using that money to upgrade one of your strikers, maybe Davis, and then for the other spot, I'd go for Wilson. So that's what I would consider with your team, but it's a really good team, to be honest, a really good squad. I see midfielders like Foden a must keep, as fixtures are in quick succession now, so they can be rotated. Well, that's the thing. Everyone, to a degree, will be rotated across most teams. You have certain players like Salah, maybe Son, etc., that don't really get a rest. But with City, this could be a bad thing, especially with Champions League, Carabao Cup, the FA... Well, no, not Carabao Cup, they got knocked out. The FA Cup, etc. It's a tough one. I think this might not be a great time to get in on the, the likes of Foden and stuff like this, to be honest. I like Foden a lot, to be honest. And it kind of goes both ways. I don't think I necessarily agree with what you're saying there. I don't think he's a must keep because you have Jota on the other side and then also you can upgrade to a Son. I'm thinking I might do something similar myself, but of course, if Foden can play even just 80-90% of the games, I'd be happy with that and it'll get you a lot of returns there. Would you play Jimenez or Reguilon? I'd actually go for Jimenez, mate, Jefferson. The only problem I have with that is that Jimenez might be benched, especially because obviously he had the internationals recently with Mexico. Vardy to Jesus will roll the transfer. Jesus, I think, will do really well this week, but just over the next 5 weeks as a whole, I'd rather keep Vardy, so I'd keep Vardy. Vardy plus Rafinha to Jota and Jesus for a hit. Honestly, mate, I probably wouldn't, Tejo. I'd probably keep things as they are. White or Hwang? I'd start Hwang, definitely, George. Hi, Dylan, that's my team. This is my team. Ramsdale, Livramento, Trent, Cancelo, Chilwell, Salah, Benrahma, Rafinha, Ronaldo, Hwang, Vardy. No money in the bank, 2 free transfers left, no transfers made. Any tips, mate? Yeah, I think I like your defence, I like your goalkeepers. I think the thing I'd do with your team is downgrade Vardy, maybe to Wilson, and then upgrade one of your midfielders like Benrahma to Son. That's what I would do, Ashish. I'm thinking Rudiger plus Jimenez plus Vardy out for Reguilon, Tony and Kane. Thoughts? I actually think that looks pretty good, to be fair. And you're one of the few people who are actually looking to bring in Tony, because a lot of people want to get rid of him. But yeah, 2 free transfers, so that will be a -4. Fair enough. I think that could be worth it, to be fair. Although, once again, over the next 3 game weeks, Jimenez could be pretty good. Then you get rid of him in game week 14. Vardy as well, over the next 5, could score similarly to Harry Kane, to be fair. But, yeah, I think long term it's worth the hit. Although, once again, you don't have to take the hit. You can keep things as they are and then in a few weeks reshuffle a little bit. But yeah, I actually do prefer Rudiger to Reguilon, though, if I'm being honest, just because of how good Chelsea are. And I'd rather go for looking at, for example, James, Chilwell, Cancelo, etc. Thanks for the responses. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Very much appreciate it. If you have any more last questions, let me know. I'm going to be wrapping up soon. Normally I do stream for a bit longer, but like I said before, yeah, I've been pushing my luck a little bit. So hopefully I'll be fully recovered tomorrow, but maybe I'll probably just lose my voice completely after the stream. But very much appreciate everyone who tuned in today. And once again, if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. It really helps out the channel. And good to see so many of you here today once again. And good luck with Game Week 12. Good luck with the rest of the season. And let me know what you would do in my team, of course. You saw it on screen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, Dylan_RCM. And also look to join the Discord server, which is pinned in the live chat right now. And yeah, you can join in on the discussion too. I'm bringing in Tony to be able to afford Kane. Would Hwang be a better option? Over the next 3, yes, but not long term. I think Tony, despite how poor he's been, I think he's a better long term pick than Hwang. Thanks for the content, mate. Can Liverpool keep a clean sheet versus Arsenal? I think so, to be honest. I think they can, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think that's more likely than Arsenal scoring, if I'm being honest. Would you play Broca versus Norwich with the risk of him being on the bench versus Hwang versus West Ham? I don't honestly play Hwang, but obviously if Broca was nailed and he didn't get that injury, I probably would go for him instead. But it can always backfire, that's the problem. Because if you bench Broca, he could actually start and then do really well, or even score from the bench. But then the opposite can happen, where you start him and then he comes on for a 1-pointer, which is the worst thing that can happen. Only made a transfer from Vardy to Kane. Yeah, I wish I could do the same, Melvin. And who's going to get a hat-trick this week? Actually, maybe, because you tend to say it without, me asking, so maybe that's how the magic works. Should I play double Wolves attack or with extra defender? It depends who this extra defender will be, Khalid, but I definitely wouldn't play a Wolves defender this week. If it's another defender like a Chilwell or a Livramento, then I'd go for that instead. Lukaku coming back soon. Yep, pretty much. Yep. Not in Game Week 12 specifically, but by Game Week 13 onwards, he'll be fine, and he can be another option, and that's when strikers become a thing once again. Good luck to you as well, rock and roll. Buendia to not blank? I'm not sure, to be honest. It's difficult to say, but I think he could pick up. He's been okay in moments, but yeah, a bit underwhelming so far since joining Villa. Bringing in Jota, I probably won't be, but he is still a good option. But the fact that he could be back sooner than expected, it does kind of reduce his appeal a little bit. Start Rafinha or Hwang. I'd probably go for Rafinha, but it's a 50-50, to be honest. Mount to Jota. I think that's a good move for the next few game weeks. But yeah, once Firmino is back, you probably would want to get rid of Jota. What are you doing with Foden? I'm probably keeping him. I'm going to be taking the armband off him, though. I think I'll actually, or should I say the vice captaincy off him. I'll probably go with Joao Cancelo instead. So that is how my team is going to be looking right now. And there we go. Yep, I'm definitely not going to be vice captaining Foden right now. But yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. Salah will be starting. What transfers are you making? Nothing's confirmed, to be honest. I can do Townsend to Gallagher, but with the news that's come out today about Milivojevic, or should I say MacArthur, and how that affects Milivojevic coming into the side and all of that, and then also Eze being back into the mix, I'm not as confident in Gallagher as I was a week or so ago. Another move I could make, or set of moves, is for example Vardy down to Wilson and then Rafinha up to Heung-min Son, but that would be for a -4 hit. If it didn't cost me a hit, then I would probably be getting in Son or Kane in right now, to be honest. Mate, Vardy's next 4 game weeks are also intriguing. Should I take him out for the likes of Wilson just to bring in Son instead of Rama? I mean, that's what I suggested to you for your team. You don't have to, because as you say, Vardy has some good fixtures coming up, and now that a lot of people are selling him, I do expect him to get a bit of form once again. But yeah, I think long term, Son is just, at least he's got better fixtures than Leicester and Vardy. Son and Jimenez or Kane and Gallagher. Over the next 3 or 4, or should I say the next 3, it has to be Son and Jimenez, but long term, maybe Kane and Gallagher, to be honest. Vardy, go for Kane, -8. -8, I don't know. I mean, that can pay off in the long term, but I don't think it's worth an additional hit, especially when you've already taken one. So I would try to probably hold off there, Lewis. If you have Havertz, keep him for a week, then switch to Jota or Smith Rowe, guys. Yeah, I think Havertz could do alright this week, despite the fixture being tough on paper. Captain Son or Salah? I mean, I put Son second, along with Kane, in my captaincy list earlier on in my preview, so I probably would say him. Salah was third there. Havertz to Jota next week. Mane and Salah will be gone to African Cup of Nations, so Jota is a great long-term move. Yeah, that's a good point as well. That's another thing that we have to consider. And honestly, that's another thing to actually talk about. Salah, I know a lot of people might not be too confident or willing to do so, but I think you can just sell him, when that period arrives, and then bring him back in, despite losing value in him. Want Gallagher, but don't want to sell anyone. Thinking to sell Rafinha and thinking of selling Antonio next week. Fair enough, but then again, around game week 16 or 18, West Ham have great fixtures, and Antonio is probably the best striker you can own, so obviously I can see why you'd want to sell him, but I probably wouldn't do so, if possible. I either would have sold him last week ahead of that Liverpool game, or if not, just keep him all the way, and that's what I'm doing. How long are you streaming for? I'm not sure, mate, but I probably will be wrapping up soon. I've been going on for an hour and a half, I think. Normally I go on for 2 hours and 2 hours and a half, but yeah, I'm still ill, unfortunately, so yeah, not in optimum condition. Should I start Smith Rowe instead of Foden? No, I would start Foden instead, mate, to be honest. Thanks a lot, mate, for your tips. Thank you, Ishish, for your questions, comments, and feedback. Very much appreciated. I actually have Brighton Steel. Would you play him over Ramsdale, though? Ooh, Villa's new manager kind of stops me. I think Villa will have a little bounce. They'll have more... There'll be more positivity surrounding the club, and I think they'll have a good reaction. I still would play Steel, though. I think they're more likely, Brighton are more likely to keep a clean sheet than Arsenal. But then again, I could be completely wrong about that. It's a difficult one, because I think Steel is more likely to get a return than Ramsdale, but at the same time, if both of them blank, Ramsdale will probably get more saves and bonus points if it comes to it. Starting Mbumo or Livramento, very tough. I probably would go for Livramento. Jota or Gallagher? To start this week, Jota, and for the time being, you probably would say Jota as well. If it wasn't for that news with Gallagher, I probably would be a bit more optimistic about him, to be honest. Start Brocha or Mbumo, Dylan? Mbumo, because with Brocha, he might come on for a one-pointer. Obviously, it can go both ways, like I talked about before. Liverpool considered 5 goals in the last 2 games. Smith Rowe could score. Not sure if I should bench him. Fair enough. I can see what you mean there. And Liverpool haven't been the greatest defensively, as you say. And Arsenal can get something there. A draw, even a goal or 2. But yeah, I mean, I still would probably bench Smith Rowe. I mean, obviously it depends who else you have in your team. But yeah, I wouldn't be too yeah, I probably wouldn't be as concerned about as you are about benching him. You a student? No, I'm not. I'm not a student anymore. I was last year, but yeah, graduated June, May last year. But yeah, thank you very much, Ethan, for your question, and thank you very much to everyone else. If you have anything else, let me know before we wrap up, and then yeah, we'll enjoy the rest of our evenings and go on. Captain Kane, I think, is a good option. I actually preferred him just a little bit more than Son, and he was second in my captaincy list, with Ronaldo being first. But yeah, I think Kane is a good option this week. But then again, the fact that he's already such a differential, you don't have to captain him. You can captain Salah and then have Kane there, and you can already gain some rank that way. Liverpool going to win tomorrow, even though I have Ramsdale as my keeper. Yeah, I think so too. Hopefully Liverpool lose, but yeah, realistically they probably will win. Great content. I'll be replaying this show. Thank you very much, Bob. And yeah, I think you said you're from New Zealand, aren't you? Very much appreciated, mate. And yeah, anyone else, if you want to as well, see what else we've said, because we've covered a lot of questions. So if you have any upcoming questions as well, I might have answered them already, but you can leave anything that I haven't really answered down in the comment section below when this stream ends, and I'll try to get back to you, to as many of you as I can. Thank you for your answers and good luck this week. Thank you, Mirza. Good luck to you as well. And hopefully this is much better than the last one. Let's all like the video. Thank you very much, Gordon's Tube, for the shout out. Thank you very much. Foden or Rafinha? Still Foden for me, but obviously he might not even start this week, if we're being honest. Should I start Saka instead of Foden? I wouldn't, honestly. Start Foden with Livramento first bench. I would do the same as you, Chris Pogos. Please like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Thank you, Melvin. Very much appreciated. And yeah, we should call you the hat-trick guru or something like that. I'm a dedicated Arsenal fan, so I have this feeling that Ben White could assist or score. Imagine. This guy never scores or assists. So, I mean, technically he did get an assist. What was it for? Lacazette's equaliser? Something like that against Palace, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, him scoring, I mean, that would be just a moment in itself against Liverpool as well. Let's wait and see. Hopefully your intuition's right. Yeah, hopefully it is right. Why did Ben Chilwell start at game week 7 and not before? It's because he came back, I think, a bit late from the Euros, and I don't think he was really at it. And Alonso was doing so well, and he deserved to maintain his spot. But then I think after one poor performance against City, to be fair, a lot of people in that Chelsea team played poorly there in that game. But yeah, Alonso was kind of one of the victims there. I had a captain on Kane as a differential and switched back to Salah. I mean, you can still do it, to be fair, but there's no right or wrong there. This is a good opportunity to make even more ground by captaining Kane, but there's nothing wrong also with captaining Salah and having Kane already as a differential. Take a look at Discord when you can. Yeah, sure thing, rock and roll. I'll try to do that after the stream. And yeah, one thing I want to do as well is with the channel members specifically, have some discussions and also potentially some voice chats as well. Are you keeping Vardy? I'll be honest, right now I am, but there is a chance that after the stream is done, I'll be taking maybe a -4 hit and getting in either Son or Harry Kane and then making another move elsewhere. Captain Antonio, I probably wouldn't, because he's got 0 goals in 10 games against Wolves, and that includes 5 Premier League games, and he doesn't even have an assist, so yeah, I probably wouldn't. But I think he is not a bad option this week. I think he is still decent, and he could finally break that duck this week. I've gone from 1,997 down to 160k in 5 weeks. Yeah, I mean, these things can happen. It can go both ways. That's why I'm not really too bothered about the ranks right now. They could easily change, and I think I was pretty much stable around 60k in the early game weeks of the season, which was very high considering that stage. But then I kind of went down. I think I went down to 200k, and then this week I pretty much nearly halved my rank. So you never know, obviously. I'm not that happy with where I am right now, but it's not the worst position to be in. Captain Ronaldo or Salah? I probably will go for Ronaldo, mate, Rafiq. Son captain worth the risk over Salah? I think it's worth the risk, Dominic, but obviously just bear in mind with Salah, he's got a great record at Anfield, against Arsenal, especially at home, so it's a difficult one. And also with Salah, even when he has a bit of an off day, he can still return, and he's just so reliable. So that's kind of the big plus point about him. Can you look at Aubameyang and Vardy's fixtures? Who to drop for Kane or Son? Yeah, if you have both of them, I'd rather drop Aubameyang. I talked about both of them actually earlier on when talking about premium strikers, formations and all of that. And I still prefer Vardy over the next 5. If you want to look at the fixtures quickly, so here we go with Jamie Vardy, you definitely probably want to be getting rid of him around game week 17 or 18. But just bear in mind, though, he is fixture proof, but pretty poor fixtures for a long, stretch of time. So, yeah, with Jamie Vardy, I think game week 17 or 18 is probably a good time to get rid of him. Watford at home, Southampton away, Villa away, Newcastle at home are pretty good fixtures, to be honest. And that's where you can do some damage. And then if we look at Arsenal's fixtures, let me actually bring up one of their players. Ramsdale. So with Arsenal, very poor fixtures really, up until game week 17. Then it turns, and then pretty decent fixtures in the long run. But Liverpool away, Newcastle home, Man United away, Everton away, Southampton at home, West Ham at home. I don't think Everton's really a 4 in the FDR. I think that should be grey or maybe even a 2 at this moment in time. But yeah, I think West Ham's really tough. United, no matter what you think, is still a tough game. Arsenal, that's pretty much the ground that Arsenal struggle in the most, if not the second most. And then, of course, Liverpool away is another one. So, yeah, it's a tough one there. But I think Leicester and Vardy, they're more worth keeping, I think, over the next 5. But that's mainly to do with their attacking assets. When you're looking at, for example, the defence, Leicester are very poor. That's another, story in itself. Jimenez, Tony and Diaz to Kane, Davis and Regan for a -4. If you don't have any other bench fodder options, then I think that's actually a good set of transfers and I'd go for it. But if you already have a few bench fodder options and your bench and squad depth isn't particularly great, then I would probably hold. How to deal with FOMO and price rise stress taking over transfer plans. What I would do is, as soon as a game week starts, set up your team and have a good plan of which players you're looking to bring in. Maybe make a list of them, and try not to waver too much on the players you want to be bringing in, because otherwise you're going to be chasing last week's points and then making transfer after transfer where you're chasing other players rather than being ahead of the curve. And you also want to be looking at fixtures, and no one is going to actually produce returns every single game week, not even Salah. So try to be patient. Be organised, make a list, and have a clear and concise plan of what you want to do. But that is not to say that you can't deviate from it from time to time and be open-minded. You want to have a balance of all of those things. Bench 1, Livramento, Azpilicueta, Rafinha. I probably would bench Azpilicueta. Hips. I feel like Vardy's going to have a brace against Chelsea. I would love it, to be honest, if he did. I would absolutely love it, even if I have double Chelsea defence. Keeping Vardy to game week 17 as well. Yeah, I'm either going to get rid of him now for a -4, or if not, keeping him up until game week 17. You think Brighton will win against Villa? I'm not too sure, to be honest. I actually think Villa could actually sneak it here or get a draw. But if they still had Dean Smith, then maybe I would probably be back in Brighton in that fixture. Is Foden injured? He's got a little knock. And Guardiola said that he's getting better, but with Guardiola, I mean, what does that mean? We just don't know. But yeah, with Foden, he's not completely ruled out, but there is a bit of a concern surrounding him. I'm on a wild card, by the way. Yeah, on a wild card, I'd probably just in case go for someone else like Jota instead. I'm guessing you have him already. Hey, Dylan, late to the stream today, but better late than never, I guess. Yeah, Aranya. I was actually considering it looked like we were going to wrap up, maybe 10 or so minutes ago, but we're still going on. And normally we stream, as you know, for 2 hours or more. And we're actually nearly reaching that mark, which I'm a bit surprised by. I thought my voice would have given in a bit earlier than expected. I was only able to record the preview today, I believe. So, yeah, normally I would have tried to get it maybe around Thursday, Wednesday or something like that, but I just wasn't able to this week. Thankfully today I feel even better, but still obviously not great. Start Gallagher, Smith Rowe, Hwang. I would go for Gallagher, Butterblade. Hwang isn't too bad either, and I know some people are a bit, concerned about benching Smith Rowe, but I would probably bench him for sure out of those 3, to be honest. Big man Xavi is back. Let's wait and see how it goes. Says brilliance of FC Barcelona. Yeah, it will be very interesting to see. And also news came out of the Bayern Munich versus Barcelona game. That's going to be played behind closed doors. So let's wait and see what happens there, to be honest. But yeah, I think Xavi will do a decent job, but he needs time and he needs resources, to be honest. And very interesting to see Laporta say that Iniesta and Messi could come back very soon. But let's wait and see. So Sidish says Ben, Trent, Cancelo, Livramento, Salah, Rafinha, Foden, Antonio, Vardy, Jimenez, Darby Smith for Brownhill, planning Kane, Jota, Hwang for Vardy, Rafinha and Jimenez. Any suggestions? I like the moves. Just once again, bear in mind with Hwang, and the same goes for Jimenez, that around Game Week 14, that's when the fixtures turn for the worst. But if you're making free transfers right now for a -4, I think it's worth it. And then you can get off Hwang and get another, striker like Armstrong or Tony, etc. Let me actually see. Do you already have to? No, you don't have them. You could do that instead in a few game weeks' time. Or if not, downgrade that striker to a 4.5 million and then upgrade your midfield. But I think those transfers are good. Just bear in mind, Wolves, you don't want to be bringing in any of their assets ahead of Game Week 14. It's just for the next two. Messi or Ronaldo? For me, it's Messi. Hey Dylan, which stats sites do you use? I use Fantasy Football Hub, and that's where I use the graphics and stuff like that. But yeah, I use them, and some of the graphics tools and stuff are very impressive, and I've been using it all season, to be honest. But yeah, and there's also articles and from some of the best managers and writers around. So yeah, that's what I use, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, you can get your stats from different sites, of course, but otherwise, in terms of like Twitter and stuff like that, you have to be relying on other people posting stats from these so-called sites, to actually get the information yourself. But I think the stats, they're not everything, but they add another dimension to your understanding, and I think it is worth it, to be fair. Thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. If you have any last questions, let me know before we wrap up. And to anyone who's joined in late, remember there's a link to the Discord server above, and I encourage any channel members to join as well. And there's going to be the kind of private members chat as well, where there can be voice chats and stuff like that in the future potentially. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone for all the questions. Quite a lot we went through today. We pretty much went through every single question in the chat, which I'm pretty happy to do. And an hour and 45 minutes, it's pretty decent. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, as I always say, Dylan_RCM. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a blast today, and good luck with Game Week 12. Good luck with the rest of the season. If I didn't answer any of your questions, put them down in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to get back to every single one of you. So enjoy the football, enjoy the weekend.